Amtrak is facing fresh questions about safety, this after a deadly collision in South Carolina. A train carrying dozens of people from New York to Miami slamming into a parked freight train earlier today. 2 Amtrak crew members have died. More than 100 others aboard require treatment.
We should have had a lot more casualties, but we didn't. We do have some that are in critical condition, but we're hoping to hear good news on those.
Now, we've heard from many South Carolina officials today, and the governor says he believes the Amtrak train somehow made it onto a side track, but transport safety investigators have not yet confirmed the cause. As for the injured, they were treated in hospital. The U.S. president tweeting his condolences and support. At least 5 people have died in 5 incidents involving Amtrak trains since last December. Well, let's bring in Arthi Paul right now. She's tracking the story for us right now. So let's begin here with the identities of those that have died, because we're getting details there. What can you tell us, Arthi?
Well, you know, we heard from the coroner a little bit earlier as she said that she was surprised that there were not more fatalities. That said, she said she did not want to diminish the importance of the lives that were lost. And they were both Amtrak employees, as you mentioned. Both of them were in that first car of this particular train. It was the engineer, Michael Kemp, from Savannah, Georgia, 54 years old, and the conductor, also named Michael Sella, from Orange Park, Florida, 36 years old. And those identities were given out by the coroner just a matter of more than an hour ago now. We also were hearing from hospital officials as they talk about the 116 people who were injured in this particular train derailment, again, that took place just near Columbia, South Carolina. Now, one of the spokespeople for some of the hospitals, and there's many hospitals that took patients due to this collision, one of the spokespeople gives an update on the conditions of the injured. Take a listen.
Of the 6 admissions, there were some significant injuries, including some solid organ injuries and head injuries. But most of the patients that we've evaluated have had minor bumps, bruises, some lacerations requiring repair. Some needed imaging, advanced imaging in some cases, but most of the injuries were minor or non-existent.
So again, in terms of the injuries, minor or non-existent is what we heard from that particular spokesperson. We do know that there are still at least one person that's in critical condition. There are some serious injuries, but for the most part, we're hearing from officials that it's bruises, cuts, and broken bones. Michael.
Okay, and let's also talk about the cause of the crash, because as I said, the South Carolina governor has certainly offered a theory here. What can you tell us about the investigation and the cause?
Well, you know, it's interesting. This particular crash, which happened in the early hours of this morning, it is the 3rd deadly Amtrak crash that has taken place in just a matter of 2 months. So certainly something that is being looked into by officials. It happened at around 2:45 in the morning, as we mentioned, just outside of Columbia, South Carolina. This was a train that was traveling from New York to Miami. It collided with a parked freight train. Now, this was in an area right where there were several sets of tracks. It was a switch yard, so there were other tracks, but it's not known right now whether or not the train started going on one of the alternate tracks where this freight train was parked. We know that many of the passengers, because of the time that it was in the course of the day, early in the morning, were sleeping at the time of the collision. Take a listen to this passenger.
We were closer to the rear of the train in one of those sleeper cabins, and just when the accident happened, I mean, I was dead asleep, and I was awoken by the impact, and then the crew came through really quickly, got everybody detrained in a really calm fashion, and then first responders showed up within 10-20 minutes.
And we did hear also from officials that the train was traveling at approximately 95 kilometers an hour when it slammed into that freight train. Of course, we know the investigation with the National Transportation Safety Board continues to determine the exact cause of that crash.